So 40 years ago, I was practicing law with my father, doing estate planning and business planning. I graduated from the University of South Carolina Law School, and family grew up on a large farm here in Lexington, and we got into the development business to remove family debt that we had accumulated over the years. While we were developing Rose Lake, which was the first executive development in Lexington, and still one of the nicest developments in Lexington, I realized I needed my real estate license. So I started Southern Visions 40 years ago. Since then, we've done 2 million square feet in commercial property and over 3,000 residential lots. And I can't even add up the number of houses and lots that we've sold. Had wonderful people work for me all those years, have a great team today, and we're still doing same things that I was doing 20 years ago, just in a different form and fashion. So over the last 3 or 4 years, we've had a county council that's been influenced by Facebook. They call themselves the Blue Shirts, or Develop Lexington Responsibility. A lot of good things they're pushing, a lot of unintended consequences of what they've done. All of the overlay districts are they want to stop growth. That's not going to happen in Lexington. We have the best school system in the state. We got where everybody wants to live. We pull about 1,000 permits a year on new family home construction. That's been going on for the last 15 or 20 years. We will pull that every year, no matter what kind of ordinance is on the books. The national developers now pull 80% of those permits. When I started this process, 50% of those permits were mobile homes. Lexington County was actually the #1 mobile home permit pulling county in the country, which was not a great thing. And 50% were people who bought lots and built houses. We changed to where the nationals came, and what's brought out an awful lot of folks in opposition to what the nationals do in Lexington County.
Well, one of the things that Gregory brought up was that them decreasing the density is actually adding to the sprawl. So the new central overlay district, one of the objectives is stop sprawl, but in fact the rules, are they increasing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious when you have 4 units per acre max on a townhome project that now apparently can't be accessed via a 4-lane road is essentially counterintuitive to a goal, right? So ultimately, if you want to prevent sprawl, you want to essentially push density towards maybe more of the urban core. So whether that's the town or whether that's kind of just outside of the town, I think there are situations where townhomes are incredibly important. And I think you have to look at land drives the cost of homes. So obviously the more dense a project is, the more affordable a product is. And ultimately what you're doing is you're pushing people out and making it less affordable, and then you're creating larger neighborhoods with less density further out and further out and further out. So what you have is the general urban sprawl that you see across Atlanta, Charlotte, New York. I mean, we're just essentially exacerbating it, whether it's the anti-apartment mandate or it's anti-townhome. So I do think you really have to be careful with what you wish for, and I think politics should play a role, but at the end of the day, you have to have careful planning. And you can do townhome projects or apartment projects that are incredibly well done and thoughtful. But as it stands today, with this new central overlay district, you're sort of putting the brakes on intelligent development.
Right, and I think we were meeting with a family, doing family planning with them. They have a large landowner in Lexington, and I mean, we've discovered that one of their tracts is now worth, I mean, how much did it drop in value, do you think?
I mean, theoretically, it drops half in value, or perhaps more. So you've got landowners and heirs and individuals that, their wealth theoretically on paper drops 50% overnight. And that I don't think is an American thing. I think people have a right to their property and its value. And zoning changes that are done without the guise of public input they're essentially very detrimental to the growth of a county. And not just residential growth, but job growth, factory growth, all those things that bring all the other things that people want, which is amenities. So it's unintended consequences that have a good intention. It's just you have to think before you shoot from the hip.
Yeah. And some perfect examples of unintended consequences. Let's use a good example. At the intersection of the dam and Highway 6, there are 5 really nice apartment complexes there. Well, some of the council members thought that that was going to cause traffic, crime, congestion, overloading of the schools, and probably was an impetus for the first overlay district, the Lake Murray overlay district they put in place 3 or 4 years ago. Well, here we are 5 years later, and those are great projects. They've brought a huge amount of tax dollars to the county coffers. It has not caused crime. It has not caused traffic congestion. But if you took those 1,200 families, and put them in a neighborhood, all you have to go do is go look west of Lexington toward Gilbert, and you will see what urban sprawl is. And in the overlay district now, apartments basically are not allowed in Lexington County. They've drafted the ordinance to a way where they have to be a certain distance from an interstate and on a 4-lane highway. Well, all of that property is fully developed. There is nowhere to put an apartment project. Right. And when you do that, all you do is create what we've created on Highway 1 toward Gilbert, which is urban sprawl. Now, one of the things we hadn't talked about is you listen to our leaders, and what they want, which I find kind of funny, is the kind of neighborhoods that I did 20 and 30 and 40 years ago, the Carriage Hills, the Spence Plantations, all of those neighborhoods that have trees in them, that are very easy to get around in, very curvy, don't have straight streetscapes. Another example of unintended consequences is when they put these rules in place, they didn't communicate with Public Works, and Public Works, who reviews our plans, requires all of our neighborhoods to be built to a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit and tangents in the curves. So you take a Saluda River Club, a Spence Plantation, a Carriage Hill Lakes, if we turn those plans in today, they would not be approved. So what do you get? I mean, I hate to keep harping on Highway 1 in Gilbert, but right out there and look at the neighborhoods. You get Fort Jackson built on steroids. You know, neighborhoods where the roads are straight. You can just look straight down it and see nothing but cars and garages. Right. It's not what developed Lexington responsible want.